Hey guys, this is another episode of What Would Merlini Do Wednesdays, and this is a follow-up after yesterday's theory crafting discussion of armor versus EHP. And this time it's how to maximize survivability with your late game items, and I'll be comparing two heroes and how to itemize them with the very high tier items. So, how to itemize? This varies every single game. Itemization is very complex because there are so many variables involved. Who's on your team, how long the fights are, how you die, can you pop your BKB, just so many different factors that is going to be very dynamic and you need to adapt to the situation. So I'll just be giving you very generic advice because I can't give you specific ones just because I would have to be given a specific game, and all 10 heroes change every single game. So Doombringer. I took a screenshot of a level 25 Doombringer with no items, and here are his stats. He has around 2500 HP and 6 armor, and he is one of the heroes I call a fluffy hero. Fluffy hero I think of as very high HP but very low armor. And it looks like they have a lot of HP, but they're just very, very squishy. Fluffy is generally my term. And two of the items I'm going to be talking about are Shivas versus a Heart. Two very popular item choices on the Doombringer. And firstly, I need to normalize them just because Shivas is cheaper, 85% of the cost of a Heart. So I need to normalize the HP value of a Heart. So Shivas gives 15 armor versus Heart's 900 HP. And they started off with 2500 HP and 6 armor, so you end up with 21 armor with the Shivas and 3400 HP, 6 armor with a Heart. And clearly I'm not taking into account the other benefits of these items. Heart gives you damage, it also gives you regeneration. Shivas gives you a nice aura. I'll just be considering the armor and the HP for these two. So using our formulas from yesterday, we can calculate the EHP versus physical damage. 5650 EHP versus physical damage with Shivas, and Heart is 4624 EHP versus physical. So as you can tell, if you just, Shivas is an armor item and it's going to be better versus physical damage than Heart, which is a multi-purpose versatile item because HP is good versus everything except, like Zoo static field and whatnot, but it's pretty much good versus everything. And next, we're taking into account EHP versus magic damage. Shivas, you're going to have 3300. It's not increased from his base just because it doesn't give you anything versus magic, whereas Heart will give you a fair amount of EHP versus magic because it gives you HP. So three very basic scenarios. If you're versus a Juggernaut who almost does 100% physical damage unless he spins or gets a Maelstrom, but both of those are pretty rare. You will almost always get a Shivas just because the HP isn't going to be as good value for your gold, and BKB does next to nothing versus a Juggernaut. So Shivas is your clear winner here versus a Skywrath Mage who barely right clicks you at all. You're going to get a Heart just because the EHP is a lot higher, or you can just get a BKB. And then versus a Juggernaut and a Skywrath, what is your item choice going to be with a mix of physical and a mix of magic? And this is where your game experience comes into play. Who's going to be a bigger threat later? Let's say it's a solo mid Skywrath instead of a support Skywrath. With a support Skywrath, most of the time you just ignore him, and he's not going to be doing that much damage, and you can just get a Shivas guard. But if it's a solo mid Skywrath who is snowballing really, really hard, and the Juggernaut is getting shut down, then you actually want to get a Heart or a BKB versus him. So versus the mix of the two, it's about even, just because it averages out to about the same EHP if you take half physical and half magic. So again, this depends on the game in particular, but they're about even versus both of them, and generally you're worried more about the Juggernaut because he's typically more farmed. And you can clearly see why people generally get Shivas plus a BKB as opposed to a straight Heart, just because the BKB will shore up your weakness versus magic damage while providing all the benefits versus physical damage. And the fights are usually pretty darn quick too. And if it were a longer drawn out fight, like over 30 seconds, BKB loses a lot of effectiveness. So next, we're going to consider a different hero with a much different flavor, Phantom Assassin. level 25 stat snapshotted here, around 1800 HP with a nice hefty 17 armor. So in general, strength heroes are fluffy, high HP, low armor because they have a lot of strength and very low agility, and vice versa for agility heroes. Agility heroes typically have very high armor and very high agility and very low strength gain and HP. And this is a classic case right here. But she also has 50% evasion on top of that. So delving deeper into another item choice, Assault Cuirass versus the Eye of Scotty. They're very similar in price, but still I'm going to normalize it. AC is 92.5% the cost of an Eye of Scotty. And both of these are multi-purpose items. AC, somewhat defensive and somewhat offensive. It also helps out your entire team. Scotty, very good for BKB, very good for individual survivability, and also provides a lot more uptime and a little bit of damage. Also a tiny bit of armor. So 15 armor for AC for yourself, and Scotty is 670 HP and 3.5 armor after normalization. And with the new stats, you have 1800 HP plus 15 armor, so 32 armor, and of course 50% evasion, which will double your effective HP. And Scotty, you get a lot more HP, very little armor, and again, same amount of evasion. Calculating the EHP versus physical, they're actually roughly equal. 10,500 versus 11,000. That's very, very little difference in the grand scheme of things. So what this is telling you is if you're versus a hero that has a lot of physical damage, you might want to just get what's best for the situation. AC and Scotty and Satanic, they're all going to be pretty close depending on how the game is. If you have a lot of uptime, Satanic's really good. If you're getting locked down a lot, BKB is going to be a really good choice. If you know, they get a MKB, then you probably want to get HP or armor. So it always depends on the game. And versus magic damage, Scotty obviously the clear winner here because it gives you HP. So for PA, it's still a toss-up. It's just a situational thing as to whether or not you need the minus armor or the slow or whatever it may be. So keep your eyes peeled for what the situation calls for and adapt your items to suit the game. I can't stress that enough. You have to be able to adapt each and every single game to what the situation demands if you want to become a better player. So that's some insight into how your survivability will vary with different late game items, and of course it will be very hero dependent and dependent on the opponent's lineup. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to me at youtube.com/MerliniDota for daily videos. Hope you enjoyed the video.